What's up, everyone? Blondo here with my friend Poison, and we had this idea of doing creepy videos on the internet. It's something that I've been wanting to put together for a long time. I got into creepy videos a couple of years back, and really wanted to do my own stint on creepy videos on the internet. So when I got with him, I said, you know, why don't you pick 5 videos, I'll pick 5 videos. It's not going to be in any chronological order. Well, it kind of is because we did record them. But I'm going to say 2 things. First off, we do not condone anything with these videos. If it's talking about like self-harm, harm towards others, or anything along those lines, we are not, and I repeat, we are not okay with that. So this in no means do anything like that. Alright, so just sit back, enjoy our video, and if I can get up to, what was the number I picked?
2,000.
2,000 videos with up to 100 subscribers, we'll do another top video. We'll do a part 2. So without further ado, we'll start the first one.
Alright, and just make it clear what he was saying is we do not advocate for violence or self-harm.
We do not.
So that said, let's get to it.
You've seen fantastic, hey, hey, hey. Run. Please, me, please, me, please, me, please, me, please, me. You are fantastic.
So I feel fantastic. This robotic figure in this outfit with the creepy music in the background. I guess the rumor has it that this person was a serial killer, and they would put this robot in the clothing of their victims, and then when you saw that zoom into the backyard, you thought that that's where they would bury them. Now we don't know if this is in fact true or not, but it's the theory, and the fact that the robot in the video goes run, 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 run. Anything you want to add to that?
Just that there is a lot of speculation and theory. It's become one of these classic niche type of horror videos for people to watch and speculate over. It's a pretty good topic. To me, it's a good use of animatronics and a audio layover, whether it was coming from the actual robot itself or not. Either way, I thought it was a pretty creative use, whether it was intended to be creepy or not, whether it, the backstory's true or not. I'd still have to say, from a creative perspective, that it was pretty good use of the actual animatronics itself and the way that it incorporated singing and odd movements and whatnot. It kind of just shows that even back then, robots were kind of already getting a good, well in advanced use.
One TikTok user and their friends were having a bit of fun using the help of Randonautica, an app that generates a random set of coordinates which users then head to for the sake of exploration. In this particular case, the app sent the teens over to 1150 Alki Avenue Southwest, which happened to be just off the coast. Once there, the group happened upon a black suitcase lying upon a cluster of rocks. Like anyone would, they decided to see if anything was in it. This is what happened next.
Guys, we found a suitcase at the
Gabby, go. I'll hold your stuff. I don't know.
Bro. Oh, wait, open it.
We're like, we're gonna find nothing.
Open it.
Able to sleep.
It stinks, y'all.
It washed out. It's
Oh. Oh. Okay, so she's calling the police so we can see if it's actually a dead body or it's just food.
what do I found a suitcase on the line in Alki Beach.
Seattle police are investigating after several bags filled with human remains were found near the water on Alki Avenue this afternoon. Want to show you a look here at what's happening there. Police say they had received a call about a suspicious bag. They found more once arriving on the scene. You can see police out there right now. Harbor Patrol also helping out, and the King County Medical Examiner's Office has been called in.
So I've seen this sort of thing before with Randonautica. It is just, it's a random like generator that sends you to different locations.
Just random coordinates, yeah.
Yep. And I know we've talked before about doing a Randonautica video. You don't know what you're going to come across. Like these kids, they came across a suitcase full of body parts. So they came across a murder investigation.
Supposedly this Randonautica app is haunted, and this is why there are so many videos out there. Whether it is actually faked or not, well, it's YouTube, so it's probably 50-50, if not majority of them being just reviews. But either way, supposedly the backstory is that Randonautica is a haunted app that brings you to paranormal locations and or to this sort of situation where they discovered a murder scene, essentially. Well, not the murder scene, but the body parts after the murder.
Right.
And so it kind of plays into the lore and the backstory to this app in general, and so that's why it's particularly creepy to myself, because while a lot of videos can be, I guess you could say, discredited and debunked for being fake or set up or staged, this one, no, you cannot.
I used to watch a lot of like dark web mystery box videos, and then some of them were absolutely downright fake. Like you could tell, like someone opened something up and like, oh my god, what's this? Oh my god, what's that? And then some people are like, this happened here, that fake, real, whatever. And some of them, they would be directed towards like coordinates, which would lead to the Randonautica. So from dark web mystery box to these locations, and they'd be very suspenseful. Some of them, it's fake. Some of them being mysterious. Some of them being like, oh, come across a Gatorade bottle, let's say. Oh, that's it? Okay, that's not a big deal. But, it would be really interesting to see what can unfold with a Randonautica video.
Yeah.
So you had a good pick there.
Thanks.
Stalker.
Yeah.
Ricardo Lopez was your average exterminator until 1993, when he started to develop an obsession with the popular Icelandic singer, Björk. who spent 5 weeks at the top 100. Every popular figure has their stalkers. But what makes Ricardo special is he bought a camera to record and document every moment up until his big plan was executed, which was killing her by mailing her a chemical bomb laced with sulfuric acid. He was actually quite proud to have access to such harmful chemicals. For being an exterminator, he felt he had to kill her because her new boyfriend was black, though he used a tad bit harsher language about him. He was quite apparently mentally ill, and his parents worried that he may snap like this, but he was sure to keep everything under wraps. He wrote over 800 pages in a diary, explaining how he was a loser, and about his obsession for Bjork, but for some reason, I watched every moment of every tape. And the last tape was the one where he sent off his murder device. He gets extremely nervous, gets a gun, paints his walls, shaves his head, paints his head, and then uses the gun on himself. The police ended up finding his body and watched his tapes, and while sickened by them, they were able to intercept the package before any physical harm was done to Bjork.
Alright, now this one. Ricardo Lopez was this obsessed mega fan of Bjork, and when he found out about the relationship that she was in, you know, because he wanted to hook up with her, of course. Initially, he wanted to use HIV-laced needles, which we know with Eazy-E, you know, yeah. So kind of almost similar, but not so much. But decided to use sulfuric acid, which is what's that? One of the heaviest compounds, one of the most deadliest compounds, besides like cyanide.
Something along that.
Yeah. In hopes that it would kill her, he would take his own life, and then somewhere in another universe, in another life, those two would eventually hook up. And he wasn't very successful. You know, she's alive, she's well, but you could see how there's some pretty ill people out there.
This is a classic case of erotomania, as it's called in the psychological world. This is where an individual, generally that of a mental illness, delusionally believes that either a celebrity or even a local newscaster is using secret language or coding to say that they love them, and basically saying that it's a one-sided thing where a delusional individual believes that a celebrity or otherwise is in love with them. However, this is more in the case of this guy just being obsessed with her, but this also does play into erotomania for obvious reasons, but I figured I'd give the official definition of what's going on here for the sake of just information. But either way, this is a dangerous form of obsession, obviously. This is as extreme obsession as it can get. Mixed in with erotomania causes exactly this. I mean, you got the trifactor of doom going on here. You got the most extreme side of obsession, you got erotomania, and you got extreme mental illness going on as well. So we got a trifecta of doom. And so these three in combination is what happens when an individual goes unchecked, and unfortunately it led to what it did, but thankfully no one other than the
individual perpetuator, or if that's the right word we used, I don't use or whatever. You get the gist of it.
Who is that?
I'm your best friend. I'm Santa Claus. I'm Santa Claus. Don't you want to be my best friend?
I don't know who you are.
I'm Santa Claus.
As you can see here, just one of the LeMay children is present. She's scared, alone, and has no idea how to deal with the strange voice that's now speaking to her via the security cam's built-in speakers. According to news reports, this harassment lasts a total of around 5 minutes before the little girl cries out to her mom, who's elsewhere in the house at that moment. Before things stop, however, the girl is not only taunted, but she's also encouraged to destroy her room.
You can mess up your room, you can break your TV, you can do whatever you want.
The man even goes out of his way to scare the child by playing Tiny Tim's Tiptoe Through the Tulips, a song many consider scary. If you look up stories about this clip online, tons of people question the use of a camera in a children's room. As stated earlier, many parents use baby monitors in nurseries, and generally speaking, that's the societal norm, but many find it weird or even creepy that a camera was even installed here to begin with, given that the kids are a bit older. The thing is, this mother, like many, actually has a very real and valid reason for doing so. As it turns out, one of the other children not seen here suffers from a medical condition, and having a camera allows for easier monitoring and documentation if something does go wrong. Other parents are also known to keep security cameras indoors to monitor their children when, let's say, they're at work and they have a babysitter present. As for the man who hacked the webcam, based on how he sounds and what he did, it's pretty easy to determine that this is just a garden variety troll, but nonetheless, it doesn't make what he did acceptable or any less harmful. We all know that this world is full of creeps, and while this one was out to make himself known, there are many out there who would have watched silently, not letting anyone in on the fact that they're being watched.
This is a clear case of child protection. The parents, question why you would put cameras in a kid's room. I can understand a baby's room, like a monitor or whatever, to keep track of the baby, but like a small child, in the case of, let's say, when they made mention that the kid had a seizure disorder, back then, we didn't have that. We didn't have the use of cameras and security and all that. To where today we have that, and it's much safer. So do I think it's a good idea to put security cameras in kids' rooms in a case like that? When it comes to mental health, I do say yes. But also, you got to think, people on the dark web, hackers, common trolls, sexual predators. Like I said, I don't condone any of this, but you do have that out there, and that's where it's got that creep factor. And so, I'm sure now, the authorities have further access to these devices, to the dark web, to help prevent some of this. So,
to me, this is just a clear-cut case of someone that was trolling, obviously, being an attention whore, but it's still, the creep factor is literally just the fact that there are people like him out there, but like it was said in the video, most of the time these creeps will not let it be known that, one, they hacked you, and two, they're watching you. And so that's where the creep factor comes in, because you don't know you're being watched. You don't even know that you have been hacked, and so on and so forth. And so that is what gets you kind of like all paranoid and shit, and what makes it so creepy, at least to me. Additionally, though, I'd have to say this also is what I would call like a public service announcement of internet security and having good passwords. Because most of the time, people will not even put a password in there.
They don't think that they need to, but no.
Yeah.
Passwords are very, very important.
Yeah, regardless.
You don't have a good password, you don't have a password, you're going to get a creepo like that.
Yep.
So it is strongly encouraging to come up with a good password.
Any password's better than no password.
Exactly.
I mean, people hack into fucking baby monitors just because it doesn't have a password, and they're just curious. I mean, it doesn't even have to have any bad intentions. People just do it because they can, because people don't put in passwords. So, any password's better than no password, but at the same time, if you truly give a shit about your family and your own security, put in a good password.
And you'll be safe.
2-step verification and all that. So it's kind of like a public service announcement mixed in with creepy.
Yes.
School is freaking everyone out. She's called Momo. She's got bug eyes, long stringy hair, a monstrous grimace, and spooky chicken legs. Imagine this freaky character suddenly popping up in cartoons on YouTube channels for kids.
Mama, Momo's gonna kill you.
It's horrifying.
Bianca Becerra says Momo left her 3-year-old daughter traumatized.
That thing telling her to throw herself in the garbage and to throw herself from a slide to hurt her head. That's just terrifying.
Even Kim Kardashian, a mom of 3 little ones, is posting a warning on Instagram. Parents, please be aware and very cautious of what your child watches on YouTube. There is a thing called Momo that's instructing kids to kill themselves. Please pay attention. This is not a joke.
New warnings from police and schools about the so-called Momo challenge.
So who and what is Momo? Cybersecurity expert Perry Aftab.
It's the boogeyman under the bed, the monster in the closet.
The monstrous image of Momo is based on a sculpture created by a Japanese artist. He called his artwork Mother Bird. Our expert says the so-called Momo challenge started off as an urban legend that, unfortunately, is now becoming all too real.
Teach your kids to talk to you, come to you when things go wrong, and not believe everything they see on the internet.
Some say the whole Momo challenge is just a hoax, a theory being fueled by YouTube's statement that they have, quote, seen no recent evidence of videos promoting the Momo challenge. But they add that they will take down any videos that violate their policy of encouraging harmful challenges.
Now, this was clearly, like I said, Shay St. John I thought was going to be the creepiest, but I chose this one because it was downright creepy. You don't tell parents about Momo because they're going to react. Momo was a hacker from the dark web that would instruct kids to do things, and if they didn't, Momo would kill you or kill your loved ones. Which, going back to one of the other videos where it was talking about monitoring what your kids watch or whatever, but these hackers, or this hacker, was able to get in to these kids' viewings, like Roblox, like Minecraft, couple other sites that kids generally go to and say, hey, you gotta do this, or this is gonna happen to you, So, but now that the media had really paid attention to it, it did eventually come to an end. I mean, hell, you had Kim Kardashian. You saw that in her quote, instructing kids to harm themselves. And no, this is no joke. This shit ain't funny. It's very real.
Yeah. For me, this is just another point, I guess, and I never thought I'd say this, but basically an agreement to Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
That you have to be vigilant as a parent and be completely aware of what your kid does online, because this Momo thing is just one but many examples of the fucked up shit on the internet. And due to how children are, they are very prone to doing the things that are instructed of them because they're not mature enough to understand what is going on, or that this isn't actually, it's not real, and so on and so forth. You have to be vigilant as a parent because this is, of course, like I was saying before, one of many things out there, and there are way worse things out there than this. This is like level 1, the lowest form of many things that I've personally seen growing up. And this is when the internet was still new, you know, as a 90s kid. And things have been, there are just way worse things out there. I'll just put it like that. This is just a wake-up call, though, for parents to take, I guess you could say, more seriously an investment into what your kids are doing online, because if you're not, then you could have more Momo situations and children acting out on these things, and you don't want that. So for me, the creep factor is the safety of your own children, and just the fact that I know there are so many parents out there that do not, I guess you could say, care enough to know what their kids are doing online, or take the time to let them know about these things. And so it's this creepy factor of, you know, your kid watching an innocent Pokemon video and then all of a sudden Momo pops up and being instructed to do something harmful. You know, it's just fucked up.
Disturbing, and it's the one I found the most haunting of all. In 2016, 17-year-old Russian girls Alina Orlova and her friend Olyana Savchenko were students living in the city of Khabarovsk in southeastern Russia when they started adopting unwanted animals. Around this same time in the summer, people apparently also reported that stray dogs started disappearing. Maybe the two events were related, maybe not, but it seems to be a big coincidence. The two young girls promised to look after the animals they adopted and even took a series of pictures with them. One of the pictures shows a cute puppy wrapped up in a pink flowery blanket, and Alina holding the dog up near her mouth where she's making a face and pretending to bite it. Another picture shows a different dog, a little older than the first, and one of the girls' hands making a half heart over the dog. It's the kind of cute thing someone would do if they actually cared about the animal, which makes it all the more upsetting. Olyona and Alina often enjoy dressing up with horror movie-styled makeup, which this picture shows. They like creating scary looks with black and red eyeliner, exaggerated lipstick, and creepy contact lenses. But eventually they decided to take their interest in horror movies into the real world in the most gruesome way. The two took videos and pictures of themselves giving into their bloodlust, one of which shows them smiling and posed with a nail and a hammer. Then they took even more pictures as they killed some of the same dogs that they had adopted and promised to take care of. I won't go into too many details about what exactly the teenagers did, because it'll definitely turn your stomach and possibly cause you to hurl your computer across the room, preventing you from hearing the rest of this story. But there is one extremely disturbing picture of the same dog in the half-heart hand photo, where it looks like it's meant to mimic a crucifixion. Some of the other pictures show animals after they have been killed. One of the final pictures shows one of the girls posing with a bloody apron on and her hands covered in blood, having obviously just finished their extremely disturbing crime. Later it was revealed to be Alina because even though the picture doesn't actually have her face in it, it shows a distinctive arm tattoo which belongs to Alina. This would later become really important. The craziest part of the crime was that Alina and Olyana then took all of these extremely disturbing pictures and videos and posted them publicly online for everyone to see. Apparently, both of the girls were part of a social media where members would post pictures of animals after they'd been killed. People who weren't part of the sinister social media group were understandably horrified at what they saw and called attention to the local residents living near the girls. Their shocked neighbors quickly started a petition to the local authorities to have the girls stopped and arrested for the crime, especially since the girls just made another social media post about their plan to shoot, chop, and slice their next animal victims. The local media reported that Alina became worried she would be arrested for her horrifying videos, and so she tried to flee her hometown before she was caught. Luckily, she didn't get too far and was arrested at the airport of Vladivostok just before she could board a connecting flight.
So this one does actually make my stomach churn a little bit, because it does involve animal abuse, which I'm completely against. Another thing that they forgot to mention was the use of violent music, such as being like Twisted and ICP. Although I may not be an ICP fan, I do happen to be a Twisted fan. And I don't see any means to want to harm anything or harm anyone because I listen to that. And also, this is one of those occasions. This is actually the beginning of becoming a serial killer, because you get off on harming animals, and once you get to harming your first human victim, you know, you get a strong taste in that, and that's where the whole serial killer bit comes in. So, do I say that the violent music has anything to do with this? I do not. I'm glad the girls got stopped. I'm glad they got picked up, and yeah.
You good?
I'm good.
Alright. Yeah, this is a classic case of, you know, the beginning signs of a soon-to-be murder. It's a classic case of sociopathy, which is shown by the youth in their younger years harming animals. It's one of the biggest red flag signs that you can have to sociopathy, where you have no remorse, you have no emotional attachment, you're just completely disillusioned, and so you do get a sense of gratification from the abuse and ultimately the murder and killing of a animal. And then, of course, as he was saying, it kind of graduates to humans, because it starts out with little things like punching an animal, then it becomes killing an animal, and then killing animals isn't enough, so they want a bigger score or a bigger fix, so they move on to humans. You know, it's a sort of progression that happens with these psychopaths. And this is just one of those things where it's unfortunate, you know, because of the animals, but fortunate for humans, because they caught them before they graduated to humans and progressed to that sort of level of murder and abuse. However, it was mentioned that they specifically posted on
social media platforms
that specifically are literally dedicated to animal killing and animal abuse. So it's like a fetish forum, essentially. So it's quite clear that they had their inclinations in that as well. And then just to add on to the whole musical note of things here, what wasn't mentioned, but reading into things on Russian, what have yous, because I do have a good affiliation with the Russians. Basically, they're trying, a lot of people were trying to correlate and incorporate ICP and Twisted because of their influence that they had on these young women, because if you look at the makeup style, you'll notice that it's very similar to Twisted.
The one girl with the star in her eye or whatever, and the lipstick, and you could definitely see Juggalo in that. And you know, the whole Juggalo thing has nothing to do with the animal abuse. It's just, it's the type of music that they're into. Now there was one video, sorry, that I saw where these people were into like self-harm, and they would harm themselves and they would post it up on social media like what these girls are doing with the animals. Yep. They have these fetishes for physical harm. So,
long story short, people are trying to connect and correlate irrelevant things to relevant things. So they're trying to say that music creates violence. They're trying to say video games influence violence. They're trying to say movies create violence, when this is not the case. Long story short, mental illness creates violence.
Which is why there needs to be more advocacy out there.
Exactly.
You know, some people think that, you know, mental health is not much needed. Well, you've got proof right there in the video. Same thing with, you know, Salad Fingers and Ricardo Lopez. Mental health.
And we're not trying to stigmatize all mental illness as to say
Absolutely
that
not.
if you're mentally ill, you're going to be violent. No, these are very specific cases of mental illness under very specific mental illnesses. So say you have depression, does that mean you're going to be violent? No.
No.
If you have anxiety, will you be violent?
No.
So it's only very specific conditions that we're talking about. We're not generalizing. We're not stigmatizing all mental illnesses.
Not at all.
As such, just so that's known. That said, music, video games, and movies have nothing to do with these acts of violence.
We actually happen to be avid fans of, you know, the violent music, the violent games, and the violent movies, and we're completely against acting out.
Yep.
Hello. I like rusty spoons. I like to touch them. The feeling of rust against my salad fingers is almost orgasmic. I must find the perfect spoon. Hello there, young child. I'm here to inquire about your spoons. Might I ask where you keep the spoons? I see. Then I must leave. But first, I'd like to caress this rusty kettle. Oh.
So, salad fingers and the rusty spoon. Is that actually rusty?
No.
It is actually a little rusty.
Yeah, that's why I picked it.
Yeah. David Firth's imagination is quite unique, and I mean, you can go ahead and look up some of his material. We'll hashtag him in the video, so you can, you know, check out some of his stuff. This one, individual that's clearly in delusion, in isolation, could be an addict, and just completely living an unhealthy life, ends up becoming this creature, I guess, or is probably like someone's personality, and within mental health. And, you know, just like the Bjork guy, lived in isolation, severe mental health, this is what happened. So this is kind of like a similarity between Ricardo Lopez and whomever Salad Fingers really is. So, and Salad Fingers has got probably probably about a dozen videos alone. But I would definitely encourage checking out David Firth's work. He's quite the talented artist. So, my hat's off to you.
Well, for me, this is pretty cut, clear, and dry, just because I'm into the video stuff and I'm good with music. But it was intentionally made to be creepy. And
Yes.
while I do acknowledge that back when this was first created, we didn't have the best for animation, and so obviously a lot of the low budget stuff that you're seeing, while intentionally made to be creepy, was also just a product of the times, because it wasn't as smooth back then. It wasn't as crisp and clear as we got now.
I was just gonna say that.
So that while it does add to the creep factor, is also just unintentional because of the products of what things were like back then. But for the gist of it, for the whole big, picture of things, it was designed to be intentionally creepy on purpose.
Yes.
From the audio cues that you hear, the little piano in the background, very soft, very menacing. From the way that he talks, the way that it's just presented in general is meant to be like, what the am I watching?
Yeah.
It's supposed to invoke some sort of reaction out of you in that way. So for what it is worth, I will say, while it doesn't like shake me to the core or anything, I will say that it definitely is one of those videos where it has me wondering what I'm watching though, like,
But it's definitely some really good animation at the time.
Yeah, for back then.
For what they had.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I picked that, because he's probably one of my favorite creep artists. So.
Noah's Ark, the complete cut. Noah's Ark is a 1928 early talkie film based on the famous Bible story. The film is best known for its flood scene, which reportedly drowned 3 actors, critically injured another, and almost claimed the life of a 19-year-old John Wayne, who was cast as an extra in the scene. The actors can clearly be seen struggling to stay alive in the large amount of water used for the scene, and this film is responsible for putting forth stricter safety regulations on stunt scenes. In the footage you're seeing here, these people are not acting, they are legitimately frightened for their lives. When the film premiered in New York, it was 135 minutes in length. The film received harsh criticism for its poor sound quality and the aforementioned flood scene. For the wide release version, 35 minutes were cut to correct those criticisms. The longer version of the flood scene was apparently even more unsettling and even contained shots of the actors who were drowning. The 100-minute version is the only cut of the film that survives. The original premiere version hasn't been seen since its first showing in New York, leaving the aforementioned 35 minutes lost. If this footage does still exist, it's most likely being kept in the New York Film Archive and is unlikely to be released due to the on-screen deaths.
So with early cinema, you wouldn't have access to like stunts or special effects. A lot of what you would see in the old like 1920s, 1930s films were probably pretty accurate. Like if they needed like a flooding scene, they would actually flood the area. And with that one, they said that they ended up having to cut it because a couple of individuals actually drowned. And a couple of individuals nearly drowned due to that. So it was almost like poorly planned and poorly unsettled. And like they said, what you saw in the video, they weren't acting. That was purely real. So
the reason that this video is in the creepy category is not only because of the lack of safety that was going on and procedural factors that went into this, but it's under the lost footage category as well because of that 35 minutes only being cut after the first premiere. After that 35 minutes was no longer ever added in. And specifically it was because of people, 1, dying, 2, frantically trying to survive, and 3, because of the poor audio quality apparently. And so what makes this particularly creepy is because you are literally watching real humans really panicking, trying to survive this real water event. And so it kind of brings to your attention that these humans are truly drowning and truly fighting to survive, and you're watching it as entertainment. Of course, back then things were different, but retrospectively speaking, you're just like, holy shit, that is so fucked up. So that's what brings the creep factor to me, is you are watching these humans frantically trying to stay alive.
I heard you're doing the hand thing today. God, what is that? Hood. Shay, what is it? Hood. You've been doing this for 24/7. Shay, you've been doing the hand thing all day. Heard you were. Jordan told me you had been doing it on a sleeping bag earlier. Hood. Shit, I can't stop doing the thing. What is it? God, I heard you're doing the hand thing. Shay, my hands are hurting, Shay. What is that? God, what is it? Gosh, have you been doing this for 24 hours in a row? Shay, I can't stop doing the thing. What is it?
Now, I was gonna put this video last because I found this on, it was like a top 15 creepiest videos on the internet, and Shay St. John or Eric Fournier was #1 on there, and you could definitely tell like the creep factor and the what the factor in that. The story behind Eric Fournier was he was a struggling alcoholic that really liked dark media, and I guess he created Shay St. John, I guess, as kind of cryptic. I mean, you don't quote me on this, but when you hear the ahoy, what does that sound like? It sounds very much like I hurt. Now, when you see someone come up with this type of video, you can definitely see that this person really does need some type of does need to be looked at and taken care of, more or less. The story of Shay St. John was a supermodel that got into a car accident, left completely disfigured, and used mannequin parts and still thought she was beautiful. So, would I consider that a top? I mean, I would, but the next couple videos I'm fairly sure are probably a lot creepier. So, you want to add in on your?
Well, for me, I just remember watching this when I was in middle school or when I was really young. It was the early days of YouTube and whatnot. Henceforth, the quality and the cringe, I guess you could say, of it all. But back then, we just thought it was funny because some edgy guy was making weird, you know. So obviously, as a young person, you're gonna find that kind of hilarious just because it's so obnoxious and random. So back then, obviously, you know, you don't really find that creepy as you do funny, really.
Yep.
However, in retrospect, looking at it from an adult's perspective, I guess you could say, you can kind of see that it's just either intentionally made to be creepy, or it is an individual that, as Blondo was saying, is suffering from severe mental illness of some kind.
Once again.
Or something of that sort. So when I watch it, I still have those nostalgic feelings of just ha 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 ha, so it doesn't really creep me out too much, but it's just one of those completely random type of videos. However, a lot of people, I've watched videos of people analyzing it, and so they get into all these theories and conspiracies and whatnot, and it's really nice to get into that kind of stuff, but I personally don't jump deep into that. I do think it's pretty interesting, the stories behind it and the theories behind it and the analysis of it. But I just cannot get over my middle school days of just finding it funny. So that's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of opposite with that. That I do kind of analyze things, as you've seen in previous commentaries. It's just what I do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that definitely has a really good creep factor. Definitely has, yeah, pretty much all I've got with that.
Alright.
The Andrew Blaze tapes. Andrew Blaze, real name Randy Stair, was a YouTuber who originally started on the site in 2008 on a channel called Pioneers Productions, which was mostly used for uploading comedy skits.
Randy, have you seen my wooden alligator?
Yeah, dude, he's like your best character. Watch your videos of...
No, I mean, have you seen him?
No, why?
He's gone.
This channel was not successful, so he moved over to another one called Ember's Ghost Squad. The channel was named after Ember McLean from Danny Phantom, who Randy seemed to have developed an obsession with, to the point where he wanted to die and be reincarnated as her. Somewhere along the line, Randy basically went completely insane.
And that's when Ember came back into my life. It was in 2013, around late March, early April. That's when she came back into my life. I looked up the episode again on YouTube and looked up the song again, and then that was it. From that point forward, she never left my life again. Ever. I played the song pretty much every single day of my life. And just fell down a hole of deep, dark depression and despair and nothingness into an abyss of just fucking darkness. I can't even explain it. And every day, it just got a little bit darker.
He hated the world and wanted to make sure everyone knew.
Okay, so here's the deal. Got a 1983 quarter right here. You believe in fate? Here's the fate test. I'm gonna flip this 3 times, or the best out of 3, rather. And if it's heads, I'll do it here. If it's tails, supermarket. That's a tails. That's a heads. Ooh, one of each. Tension's building up. It's a tails. That's tails. You realize, if I flip this next coin and it lands on tails, there's going to be devastation and destruction. Tails. That is a tails, folks. Tails. Which means there's going to be a loss besides my own. Possibly more than one. That's fate for you.
He made an animated movie in which he and a character named Rachel went on a shoot in a high school. This was his way of foreshadowing his eventual plan to shoot up the supermarket where he worked, where on June 8th, 2017, he would kill 3 people before turning the gun on himself.
Like, there's 250 fucking shells! 250 rounds of ammunition!
The day before, he posted links on his Twitter that led to his journal and hours worth of videos detailing his plans. One of which was filmed the day before the shoot, where Randy took us on a sick, twisted tour of the supermarket, where he'd murdered 3 people the very next day. These videos briefly went missing after the shoot, but were found a few weeks later and uploaded to archive.org. So they're not lost anymore, but they're still listed on the wiki, so I'd say they count.
This is, another case of mental illness gone wrong. a lot like with Ricardo Lopez, which I've made mention several times in this video, the Bjork stalker. You know, taking a gun and, you know, determining what your fate's going to be over an obsession, a delusion, and it turning into something violent. So, you know, this is still, once again, untreated mental health. It still has the creep factor. You know, it does expose violence. And that's pretty much all I've got, really. I mean...
Alright. Well, to start out with, again, this has to do similar to what Blondo was saying before. The common theme in this seems to be mental illness of a specific kind and obsession. It seems to lead to some pretty messed up stuff. And in particularly in this case, it was a mix of delusional narcissism and what is generally the common case with this type of individual is that they have the characteristics of what is referred to as a beta male, and yes, I know the whole wolf term has been debunked and all that. However, for the sake of just getting to the point, that's what I'll use. They have lots of beta male characteristics. They generally are losers, and I don't mean that in the insulting way. I mean that in the literal way. They're just low-grade loser type people, and so they end up resenting the world, or as it was said in the video, they end up hating the world, and they want everybody to know because they aren't feeling heard, or their mental illness is driving them to this extreme ideology that they must take an extreme action to let it be known so they can be heard, or whatever the case. And so the only way that these mentally ill individuals feel that they can do this is by extreme violence. They commit an act of violence and then they end their own life. You see that a lot with mass shootings.
Yeah.
However, I will say the creep factor in particular is that a coin flip determined whether this guy was going to just go to his basement and shoot himself in the head, or go to a supermarket and kill his fellow co-workers and then himself. That is the creep factor for me. To know that several human lives were determined to either live or die based on what a coin flip determined. That is just fucked up and creepy. Yeah. Additionally, 24 hours went by from the time that he posted all the evidence and exactly what he was going to do, from the videos to the journals and the rantings and so on.
No one caught on to that.
Literally, people had 24 hours to look at these things and then report it and possibly save these people's lives. But within 24 hours, nobody, I guess, was looking, or they didn't take it seriously or something, even though it was posted publicly. 24 hours, and these people, you know, all it took was one concerned individual to call that police where this kid was living and being like, yo, this person has a plan. And that also adds to this factor, is it still, there was 24 hours that these lives could have been saved.
A full day where this could have been prevented.
Yep.
And it's either like they didn't watch it, they didn't take them seriously, or maybe in some cases they didn't care.
Yeah.
And that's a real bad case of humanity there.
Yep. And so that just adds into the creep factor for me.
So, yeah, that, you know, he's very accurate with that. I mean, you could have stopped it, but you didn't.
So it's just as much on those who took no action as it is to the person who did take action. When you are witnessing a crime and you do nothing about it to help the person that's being, say, assaulted, right? Or mugged. If you stand there and do nothing, you're just as guilty as the criminal himself. And so all those individuals that did see that link, or maybe even actually clicked on it and watched these things and didn't do anything about it, you were just as much responsible for the actions and the murders as he was.
You could have been the big heroes, but instead, you are you were just as responsible as he is.
So basically that's all I gotta say about that.
So that is our top picks.
Top 5 for
top
me.
5 and for him, me and him.
Which equals 10.
Yep. Wow, we didn't realize just how much mental health was included in this. I mean, these were just creep factors, and breaking everything down, a lot of it boils down to mental health.
Unchecked.
Yeah. Or untreated. You know, like I said, once again, Ricardo Lopez, Salad Fingers, Shay St. John, the mass shooter, and there were a couple other ones I think of. The 2 girls in Russia. You know, there was a lot of just untreated. But they were definitely creepy either way.
Yeah. Whether it was based on mental illness or not, all these videos had a creep factor to them in one way or the other. And that is why they are specifically on this list of my top 5 plus his top 5 together.
Now, if you've made it all the way through, I'm gonna go ahead and repeat myself, but I'm gonna be clear about this. We do not condone acting out in any ways. You know, the animal abusers, the serial killing, Momo, any of that. We are not okay with that. All right? We are firm supporters of mental illness and treatment of that.
Nor are we stigmatizing.
We are not stigmatizing, not at all. Try to say what else I got. Like I said before, if I can get 2,000 views within 2 weeks and up to 100 subscribers, we'll put together a part 2 to this video. So I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Blondo Plays, Poison. Hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, and updates for new videos. And I don't know what else you got.
Just until next time.